Boom! And we are live with another episode of the Brown Water Banter Podcast. My name is Jared Seymour.
My name is Joey Cates.
That's right. And we have a great show lined up for you this evening. We have Tiffany here from NOAA. She's going to be talking to us about what, Joey? All kind of things. We're going to go over
reefs, fisheries, water quality, quotas. We got everything lined up.
All the stuff that we've talked about with some of the charter boat captains that we've had on here before. But now we have somebody that's official that can officially tell us what we're talking about. So it's going to be a great show. But before we do that, before we jump into it, we are going to thank our sponsors right out of the gate like we always do. $1,000 goes to the first person who can tell me who I'm about to say. Nobody? Cool.
Captain Robbie Williams.
It's Dr. Robbie Williams at Southern Magnolia Smiles, man. If you're looking for a great local dentist, go check them out. They're located on Washington Avenue in Ocean Springs, right off of exit 50, or hit them up on the socials at Southern Magnolia Smiles. Keep your mouth clean in 23, and when you're ready to book that appointment, give them a call at 228-215-1202.
And tell them we sent you.
That's right. Jesse Hill over at Hill Tree Marketing. If you need a website built for your business, for your content creation, maybe you do whatever, you build things at your house and you want to sell them, Hill Tree Marketing is your one-stop shop. They can take you from having nothing to having a professional website built, and he's all local. Here, his team that he's got here on the screen for you folks watching on the video. He can do everything for you, from photography to videography to the IT side of things. He's got an aerial drone he can throw up and do aerial cinematography. He'll take you to that next level, man. So go jump over to hilltreemarketing.com, look at some of the brands that he worked with, and check out brownwaterbanter.com because he built our website as well. Sea to Swamp. Our good buddy Rocky over at Sea to Swamp off of Goche Van Cleve exit off the interstate there. He's your local one-stop shop for apparel. He's carrying the brown water hats, man. If you want to go look at one before you buy it, go stop by Sea to Swamp, Goche Van Cleve exit. Tell Rocky you heard about him here on the podcast.
Go buy two. Don't just buy one.
He's got your rods, reels, baits, tackle, everything you need for a day out on the water. He's got you covered. So go check him out and go look him up on social. See the number 2 and then Swamp. Last but definitely not least, our buddies over at Taylor & Cox Law Firm. If you find yourself needing legal representation, they've been practicing law for over 30 years right here in Pascagoula, which is in Jackson County. They specialize in criminal law, family law, and civil litigation defense. They come highly recommended from everybody that we spoke to prior to Calvin getting elected as circuit court judge. So give them a call at 228-696-0111 if you need some representation. And we've also got, let me get it right here, coming up April the 1st. It is not
April Fool's Day.
That's right. It's not a joke. We are really doing a hardhead catfish tournament. The Bay Rat Bash.
It's going to be awesome.
It's going to be at the Blonde
Tiger.
Glorious. It's going to be glorious. That's right. It's going to be at the Blonde Tiger in Biloxi. Big shout out to those to Scott over there for allowing us to host our tournaments at his place, man. Right there on Gulf of Mexico. It's usually a beautiful, beautiful evening, like right there weighing in fish, watching the boats come in.
You would have said that.
Well, that's true too. That's also a very good point. I probably ruined it. But if you want to turn a hardhead catfish into $700 cash, go to brownwaterbanter.com right now. Register for the event. You still got plenty of time. Captain's meeting will be the day before. It is not mandatory. We'll stream it online. Joey's been getting a lot of questions about the fishing.
Don't ask me where the boundaries are. If you don't know where the boundaries are, don't fish it.
Just don't fish the tournament.
Just don't fish it. We don't even want you in there.
And for the people who don't deal well with Joey's negativeness,
you can't go around Deer Island.
Everything
north of Deer Island is Back Bay.
Stay in the bay. Yeah. All right. There's also other categories. If you enter the main, you do have to enter the main, the hardhead division. But you can do a buy-in for a black drum, croaker, sheep's head, and we have a whole separate spearfish.
No excuses. If you can't catch a croaker or a hardhead catfish in Back Bay, you're not a fisherman or woman. Throw your poles in the water and find a different sport.
That's right. That's right. All right. So that's out of the way. Tiffany, thank you for joining us here this evening. We've talked about having someone who actually knows what they're talking about on this show for a long time, and we haven't done it but until tonight.
Yes.
So it's no more just banter, willy-nilly, just shooting from the hip. We're going to have somebody who knows what she's talking about when it comes to some of these topics. So, Joey, I'll let you take the lead here. Where do we want to start?
Let's dive into how you got into it. Actually, give us your title and then tell us how you got into your actual title.
So my current title is Fishery Management Specialist.
Just pull it in close.
I was trying to like drink and do it, so it's like
it's the only trade-off for not having the boom in front of your face. You got to kind of manage it being right there. So
there you go. You're good.
We want to hear you.
Yeah.
So I work for a company called ECS, is a contract company that assists NOAA. So
Okay.
a lot of times they want to get people into NOAA. The federal process takes a long time.
Mhm.
They go through these contracts. They can hire them within weeks to months instead of going through almost a year process with the federal hiring.
You mean to tell me that the federal government's not efficient or quick? Is that what you're telling me?
I wish I could say that after
Right.
being
Yeah.
behind the curtain now, but it is definitely a slow roll. There's a lot of factors that go into everything.
Yeah.
Right.
It's an incredible process.
Yeah.
So I currently work for the HMS Management Division of NOAA Fisheries, and we manage everything from Maine to Texas to Puerto Rico, and it's tuna, billfish, and sharks.
Wow.
So what does HMS stand for the Nimrods in the back?
Highly migratory species.
There
There
go.
we go.
If
Yeah.
I
so
didn't know
I've
that.
started talking in acronyms because that's kind of how NOAA Fisheries goes.
You gotta break it all down for us.
Just let me know,
Yeah.
and I will try and remember what the acronym means.
Okay. So did you go to school? I'm guessing you went to school for this, right? How did this interest speak in you?
So it's crazy. I'm a Yankee. I was
Okay.
born and
Uh-oh.
raised outside of Philly in New York.
Really?
Yep. In a small steel town of Bethlehem, Pennsylvania, Bethlehem Steel.
Okay.
And I would watch Shark Week with my grandfather
Okay.
every year.
Yeah.
Back when it was actually science.
Correct.
Right.
Not
Correct.
what it has
Yeah,
become.
the megalodons and
Yeah.
everything else.
And it's
right.
sad because I have a lot of
Sharknado.
friends that will go on with this idea, hey, we want to show your research. And they go on, and then all of a sudden it's like, well, that's not what we said. That's not what we were led to believe. They'll like change it around. So a lot of scientists have actually pulled out of Shark Week.
Really?
Dang.
Yeah,
But I
because-
guess for the narrative of TV is what they're doing.
you know, you kind of want to make it interesting, but I think the science is interesting, and what's going on is just as interesting as, like, I forget, there was like a big giant hammerhead swimming around Boca Raton eating everybody's like tarpon.
Right.
Yeah. People don't realize like real science is cool.
It's cool. It's super cool.
You don't have to. It don't have to just be like somebody
Yeah.
getting bit or jumping into
A
the
Sharknado.
shark. Sharknado is pretty cool. Or cocaine bear.
Yeah.
It's going to be pretty.
Yeah, it's
nasty.
pretty cool,
I'm looking
too.
forward to that. I don't know about y'all, but go ahead.
There's a lot of cool things that we go out. We see a lot of cool things. I've seen some really rad stuff out there.
Okay.
That's unbelievable.
Give it. Shoot.
My second longline trip. So I used to do longlining off of the East Coast. I saw a 15-foot mako. Now,
Ooh.
I understand a big shark. I've seen big sharks.
Right.
Now, a 15-foot mako was huge.
Yes.
It was so wide. I don't even think I could get on it and sit on it.
Yeah.
It was incredible to see.
Yeah.
It was moving at 200
I was
going
going
to
to say they're like a bullet under the
Well, that
water,
was
right?
I was on a longliner, so it was hanging out under the boat, and it
I got
was
you.
crazy. They did the whole like put the barrels in it, and it went down
like Jaws.
Yep.
Oh.
Can't go down with 3 barrels.
Yeah.
Pop the barrels off, and never saw them again.
Wow.
Dang.
They
Dang.
did go down with 3 barrels.
Now,
there.
are they? Have we talked about makos before on the show? They
Oh,
not.
this is a good topic.
They're not. You're not allowed to eat them.
Oh, you're not even allowed to put them in the boat now.
Now, that's
as
new
of
though, right?
July 2022, they're prohibited.
Is
now, there's 2 species. So there's a longfin mako. They've always been prohibited.
Okay.
And then there's a shortfin, which was like commercially caught, recreational
Right,
caught.
right.
They taste delicious.
That's what
They
I've
are
heard.
delicious.
Yeah.
Oh,
They're like steaks of the sea.
they're
Okay.
steaks of the sea.
Okay.
But
And what was the why was the moratorium put on them? I guess
their numbers are crashing.
are they?
Is what they
Huh.
found out.
And is it because of I'm guessing overfishing is what
yeah,
it is?
and I think there's other factors. You know, it's not just overfishing you got to look at. It's kind of cool. We're starting to move into this. We'll call it ecosystem-based management. You got to look at the whole picture.
Right.
If you're just going after a species, we've learned in the past it's not working.
Correct.
You know what's going on. There's other factors. Where are the prey items? Is the if the water's bad, the fish live in the water.
Mhm.
If the home's bad, they're not going to be there.
Yeah.
So we've got to start looking at all the factors than doing the old school. We need to manage one species.
Right. So you got to look at the bait. You got to look at water clarity. You got to look at habitat. You got to look at all
Yeah.
that stuff
And
that you people smarter than us.
Right.
look
Right.
at.
Right.
Yeah, yeah.
Right.
but it's crazy we haven't done it in the past. We haven't put all the factors together. There's like water people, and there's like the fish biology, and
Right.
all this other stuff, and we're trying to all bring it together.
Yeah, that's cool. So you started longlining off the East Coast, and didn't you go to college?
Yeah. So let's see. From there, I went to Florida Tech for my undergrad. I was
Okay.
supposed to go to a different school. It ended up almost closing, so I was supposed to go to Southampton College, and then I changed, which is out on Long Island. They were supposed to close, so like I over a weekend went to Florida Tech,
Okay.
which is in Melbourne, Florida.
So how was that move?
It was awesome.
Yeah, I bet it was for you.
I loved going to the beach. It's like it's in the top 5 surfing colleges in the U.S. So I made sure my classes were from like 8 to 12, and then I was on the beach.
Sweet.
Nice.
You know, we were surfing, hanging out. I used to row until I tore my rotator cuff, so I was on the water a lot.
Right.
You know, while there, I did a bunch of different things. I looked at like ancient pollen from Lake Titicaca. That wasn't from me.
Yeah.
Okay.
I worked with a it's in a aquaculture facility.
Yeah.
We
Yep.
did a lot of like shark tagging out
Right.
of like Sebastian Inlet.
Okay.
And then I also did it's called like ecomorphology. We looked at the feeding habits of just hatched juvenile snook
Okay.
and like how it changes as they get bigger. And it was one of the first labs that actually takes juvenile snook or snook from eggs and hatch them out
Yeah.
and keep them alive.
We got a buddy of ours that does that
That's
with
awesome.
a lot of
Yeah.
species around. Brian
Brian
Butler,
Butler over at
Ocean
Ocean Springs. He does the aquaculture over at Ocean Springs, and he does triple tail, speckled trout. He does a whole bunch of stuff
Yeah.
over there.
Yeah, it's pretty cool. I actually thought I was going to go into that. I thought I was going to go and do like aquaculture. I thought it was really cool.
Right.
And then I graduated college in 2008, which was the last economy crash.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
So there were no jobs.
Mm-hmm.
So basically, when I graduate with now, mind you, while I was doing school, I also did a bunch of internships. I worked in an aquarium. Aquarium is not for me. Those are fake sharks. They're trained, you know.
Right,
So it's
yeah,
like
right.
It's just a different
like a
feel.
petting zoo.
Yeah, kind of.
They're
It
not
was
like-
interesting.
Yeah, they're not hunting. They're not acting like
Yeah.
real sharks.
They've
yeah.
been in that tank for
right.
They know how to
They're
act.
defeated.
like 10
They're
years.
defeated.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now, would I want to get in there? Would they probably like naturally instinct and maybe like chomp on me if I
Right,
aggravated them?
right.
Yes. But it's not like working with wild sharks.
Right.
So I also did a stint at the Bimini Biological Field Station, the Shark Lab. So if you do watch Shark Week, that lab is like the center point of like shark research.
Really.
Okay.
You know, so that was cool. Like all day we would go out and like chase lemon sharks around, or we would set gill nets looking for juvenile lemon sharks, because there was a theory that lemon sharks, like sea turtles, when they like pup, the pups go out and then they'll come back and pup. It took them almost 50 years to figure out, yes, that's true.
Science.
We got it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
we figured it out. Yep.
Yeah.
Yep,
So that's
they
what
do
I-
eat that.
Yes.
Like the old school fisherman. He's like, yeah.
Yeah, we
have-
knew that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We've seen
You know, they see them
Yeah.
come around. Like a lot of people in Bimini, like they live their whole lives. They're like, yeah, we've seen this. We know, kind of.
Right. But we
But
had to prove it.
We
had
have to prove it.
Yes.
You know, there has to be data to show
Correct,
that.
correct. And that's the cool thing about science. What you were doing these internships, was this while you were still in college, you're
Yeah.
saying? Okay. And when you graduated 2008, what was your degree?
I have a bachelor's of science in marine biology.
Okay. All right.
And then, so there were a couple of options when I graduated. It was basically go to Alaska and be an observer.
Ooh.
I'm not going from Florida, which
Right.
the weather is fantastic,
Right.
to Alaska. I had a lot of friends that did it. They had great experiences. They loved it. It's hard work.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Because a lot of them are living 30 days on that boat
Ugh. In the cold.
in the cold.
Freezing cold,
Yeah.
terrible winds, rough seas.
Yeah, Bering Strait. I had a couple friends who they were out while another boat went down.
Ooh.
Oh.
You know, observers are on there. 'Cause
Yeah.
they have to have a certain. So Alaska Fisheries is one of the best managed fisheries in the world.
That makes sense because they
And,
still have one.
Yeah.
Right? No?
Sometimes
Okay.
they had I know they closed like king crab and Ophelia crab this year early.
Well,
And it
what
had
I'm
to-
saying is that from what I hear, I've never been there, but like they still have plentiful
Yes,
Bounties.
bounties, of
Yeah.
different species because they manage it so
because
well.
it's so
That's the
you
point
know,
I'm trying
and
to
they're
make. Yeah.
always monitoring it. Like I said, they shut it down if they're noticing like the brood stock's not not good this year.
Right?
You know, they have these on each the trawl boats.
Right.
They have like sensors on them, so they know what those nets are doing all the time. And those sensors are cool. We put them out on one of the CMAP bottom trawls we do out in the Gulf,
Mhm.
and it's cool that as the boat speeds up, slows down, you can watch the net react to the boat,
Yeah.
so you know how much you're fishing.
Right.
So
there's
it's like GPS tags of each part of the net. Is that what you're saying?
yeah, there's like
Okay.
these like orange things on different parts, and they talk to each other, and then hit a hydrophone on the boat.
Okay.
And I think Alaska's got cameras, like they can watch the fish go in.
I think
you-
I've seen that.
You're not going to
before.
sneak anything in. It's pretty much everything you catch. You got to
Mhm.
report and do everything like
Pretty
that.
much.
Yeah. And that brings up a good topic. I want to interrupt the origin story here, but like having a great fishery like Alaska does with these regulations that usually piss people off,
Yeah.
especially the people that live like off of that economy, right? It's
Mhm.
kind of a fine line you have to run to have a
Correct.
great fishery. I think anywhere, right?
Yeah, so
you're going to make people upset,
we
right?
kind of joke in the management that as long as everybody's upset, you're doing it right.
that's a great way to look at it.
Yeah.
There is a fine line to dance. You know, you have to like make everybody happy somewhat,
Which is
try,
impossible.
which
no
is
matter what.
impossible.
Yes.
And you're ultimately like, we're scientists, like we are very much into the environment.
Mhm.
You're trying to preserve fishery, a species. But not only that, you're trying to preserve these like for Biloxi, you want to preserve the fishing, the commercial fishing, and stuff like that. That is so like endemic to the area.
Right. Right.
You know, it's been here forever. We want to preserve that. Most scientists don't want to like get rid of recreational fishing, commercial fishing. You know, our job is to make sure we have that going on forever.
For generations.
Yes.
Yeah.
But the perception it ends up being, because there's that distance between the people who are making the rules like y'all are and the people who are on the boat fishing, recreational or commercial.
Right.
That what are they trying to do? They're taking us away from us.
Yeah.
I've been out there. I've seen the fish. There's, you know,
billions of
snappers.
snapper,
They're not endangered. They're more now than there ever was. Stuff like that.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, we'll get to the snapper situation.
Right.
Because that's going to come here in a little bit.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
So yeah, it's tough to manage and make everybody happy, but I think if you can equally make everybody upset, it's just
then you're not playing.
You're not
playing the field.
Right,
yeah,
right.
Exactly.
So in Alaska, I know a lot of with the hunting and stuff. If you're a native of Alaska, like an Eskimo, you don't have to follow the actual
they get certain
guidelines.
Yeah.
Is that the same way with fishing as well?
I've never worked in like indigenous people's fishing habitat. We don't have a whole lot of that down here. You know, so like my main focus has been, I'd say, from like Virginia to Louisiana.
Oh,
okay.
So you just got the regular old people. You ain't got no Eskimos.
No, I've never dealt with that.
I think that's where we jumped out of your story, was that she didn't actually go to Alaska, right?
Yeah, no,
right.
Everybody else went.
Yeah.
And then so pick it up. 2008.
I went to grad school.
Yeah, well, there you go. More money.
Which I ended up having to pay. You know, I paid for school.
There was
no money.
Yeah.
There was no grants. There were no jobs. So that's what I did. I went down to NOAA Southeastern in Dania Beach, Florida. So I went south, which wasn't a bad thing.
Smart.
Yeah. You're about to run out, though. I mean, you can't get that much further south.
Yeah. You know, if I probably could have lived in the Keys, I would, but it's too expensive.
Yeah.
Even when I was down there, you know, from 2008 to 16.
Yeah. They know what they have down there.
Yeah.
And they charge you to live for it. You know
I just went back to the Keys this October for 2 weeks, and it has completely changed in 4 or 5 years.
Since the storm.
I've never been.
The storm destroyed it. Yeah, the storm tore it all up.
Tore it all up.
Move sandbars, move reefs, move everything.
Yeah, and it's actually like brought in a lot of like the locals are being pushed out. You know, and big businesses coming in and like taking up the area, and they're putting fence. Cool. Like you used to be able to just pull off, put on your snorkel gear, and jump in.
Right.
Now
we're
trying to fence it off.
Yeah, we own this now.
That's not cool.
Yeah.
You know.
Well, I mean, lobster season's huge. You said Melbourne, Sebastian Inlet, all that. I got family that lives down there, and they'd load the boat up and go lobster season in Keys every year, and then send us back spinies and 2-liter quarts that are frozen and send it up from Florida all the way up here. So it's an awesome thing.
We used to joke that mini season was like the way to get rid of like a natural selection, because mini season's 2 days of lobster season before a week where the commercial opens, and then a week later the
regular season.
Okay.
But they allow these 2 days, and boy, could you see some like jabrones go out. People would die. They're not, you know, they just got their dive cert the day before. It was a mess. Like you didn't want to be on the water.
Right.
Those 2 days, it could be scary.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I guess it's with anything. You know, first day of snapper season around here is pretty much the same thing. You know.
Yeah.
45 boats broken down. Nobody's got bait. Nobody's got poles.
I mean,
everybody's fishing on top of each other.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
Correct. So you're not getting so much the drowning.
Right. Yeah. That's pretty tough.
So I went to NOAA Southeastern. I ended up hooking up with my major professor, Dr. David Kerstetter, in the we call it the pelagics lab. We were mostly studying pelagics. He ended up actually working at Bimini, and that's how I got in the lab, because we had this mutual the shark lab background.
Right.
And that's like something that comes up every so often. Like there's certain hotspots, like the shark lab. There's people that have been in it, and I'll meet them. I've met them now 10 years down the road. Dizzle's another one, the Dauphin Island Sea Lab. There's a lot of people that come out. They go there during college, and there's a lot of like connections to everyone.
So it's basically like the medical field.
Yeah.
Like you go to med school with people, and then you know what hospital they're at. They get them all.
Very
you see them all. Same thing
with
in the marine biologist.
Yes, it's
section.
the same thing. So I started working with him. My study species was a pelagic stingray. So it's like they're daisyated. So they're like the southern stingrays.
Okay.
I got to think about species and their common names. So if you see me like struggling, give me a sec. Yeah. I'm like converting it over.
Right.
So like the southern stingrays, it's the same genus, but these things are out in the open water. They actually never hit the ground. They're about this big. They're
so they
Yeah.
swim. They don't bury. They swim the entire time.
They're swimming the whole time. They're chasing like squid, which is like one of it's a very fast species to eat. And they're out like very deep water. We actually I got a satellite tag a couple of them.
Huh.
So satellite tags, the archival ones, they're like doing that with the triple tail.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it stores the data.
They're doing it with Mississippi State's doing it with tarpon.
Okay.
They had a tarpon project where it ran from, I think, Mobile Bay all the way to Cat Island. Same. I think it's a sounder tag, though. I don't know if it's the same thing.
No, those are the acoustics. So those are the ones that are embedded, and you have to have like the array set up so it pings.
Right.
This is like something you attached. So we like surgically implant it into the tail because normally you pole tag.
Right.
So I came from the shark world. You know, a shark's got body depth, and you just
stick them,
just nail them. Yeah.
Pole tag it. Well, if you pole tag a stingray, you're going through it.
Yeah.
So
sorry, you killed it.
Just like gigging us.
They're not going anywhere. It's like because you killed all of them.
Yeah. So at this time, I was starting to work on commercial longliners, predominantly on the East Coast, from Cherry Point to Canaveral. We had some special permits that allowed us into closed areas. So like I got to longline like off the Florida Keys. So Florida's got a huge area that longlining is banned.
Correct.
So we got to go in there just because like nobody's been in there for a while. We don't know what's going on. How's the swordfish? Were they okay?
Mm-hmm.
So we did a bunch of studies with that. We were working with different gears. So long line, you're putting that main line out. There's a bunch of gangins. It's like a lot of mono.
Right.
Yeah.
So we were trying to change it. We were working with the buoy gear guys. Buoy gear is really cool.
Okay.
So you have like a high flyer like you do on a long line.
Correct.
And then you would have a line to like a daub, bullet buoy.
Right.
And then you have a line down with a gangin, a singular gangin. And you would line 10 of them up. And we would put them out in the Gulf Stream.
Okay.
And so you could run, so you would start like right at sunset and you would back and forth. And you could tell when had a fish because it would move out of line.
Oh, okay.
And it's a pretty efficient fishery. You're not getting a whole lot of bycatch because you're checking it. Whereas long lines, you put it out at sundown.
Yeah, the next day.
Next morning. Yeah. And like it could be hours pulling in that line.
And half the stuff you got's dead or eaten or something like that.
Yeah, there's a lot more chance for bycatch.
Yeah.
So it was a cool fishery to see that's now like kind of taking off, and it's getting more and more popular, especially on the East Coast. It'd be cool to do here, but it's hard to get out to the loop current.
Okay. Yeah, we can't get to deep water quick.
Yeah.
I mean, they get a lot of bad press, the longliners, because of the bycatch.
Yeah.
I guess if you're doing it in the right way,
you're not getting a whole lot of bycatch.
I guess off the East Coast, is there a special permit for that? Like you you can't just go out there and say, "Hey, I'm longliner."
No,
right? You got to get a special permit for that.
And just like you have to buy into a lot of them, where there's only so many permits allowed, and you have to buy in.
Right.
You know, somebody's got to like get out, whether they're retiring. Now the long line, it is a dying business.
Right.
You know, there's not as many that used to be. We don't have a lot of shark fishers like there used to be.
Is that because of regulations? Is that because of people don't like it as much? Or
it's a mixture of both. Like, you know, there's a lot of campaigns. Like, you know, I told my husband, I'm like, oh, Mako shark's delicious, and he's like, I can't believe you eat that. I'm like, well, it's good. You know, like trying to get people to eat shark. There's been such a change in mentality from a lot of, and like I don't want to, you know. What do you call them? Like environmental, like nonprofit groups. They do a lot of good work, but sometimes they'll change some stuff and they word things in a weird way that it's like, well, that's not right. Like shark's a good protein.
Oh, okay.
And like, I'm going to get a lot of heat for this, but like eat shark.
Yeah.
It's good.
Right.
NOAA did a campaign, I think last year, 2 years ago, where they were like, here's a recipe for sharks. And I mean, they got torn apart.
Well, that's the internet, which is not real.
Well, I guess everybody sees the shark fin soup and they're like,
Right.
oh my God, we can't have sharks. But if you ever go snapper fishing in the Gulf of Mexico, there's 475 billion sharks out there. And if you do it the right way, you need to have a predator. You need to harvest some of them.
Yeah, there's enough to be harvested, but there's so many negative views about killing sharks because they're a large charismatic megafauna. They're almost like dolphins. Like, nobody here would eat a dolphin.
There's an allure to them.
Yeah, they're, I don't want to say cute, but there's like this community feeling towards them.
Well, I know, like for me, like I used to think going like for hunting, people that would kill bears and stuff or any type of predatory animal. I never really like
it's
do
not real
what you
cool,
want.
yeah.
I was like, that's not for me. But then when you realize that I've heard that they're good, that they taste good. If you're going to eat it, I don't really have a problem.
Now,
with
I
you
lived in some
harvesting
place
it. I don't.
where bears were a problem.
Yeah,
Right.
There was too many bears and
Correct.
human interaction. So, like, basically, once a bear eats, like, your trash,
Done.
like a trash bear is a dead bear, is
Yep.
like Florida's slogan.
Yes.
Yeah.
Well,
You know.
we did it. We went to Gatlinburg.
Yeah.
And there was a mama and 3 cubs, and I mean, somebody was feeding them. The mama bear opened up the back hatch on the car. She tried to open the hatch on our car. They brought him away. She came right back.
Yep.
Eventually, they had to euthanize him
Yeah.
because that's a threat. You know what I'm saying? And it's a human's fault.
Correct.
You know what I'm saying?
Yes.
For feeding them.
My point was
Correct.
like harvest whatever you want as long as you can eat it. That's what
Yeah.
I'm saying. Don't waste the animal.
I agree.
And like you were saying with those videos of shark fin soup, I remember seeing those probably on Discovery Channel where they're like hauling them in, they slice all the fins off and throw the whole shark.
Yeah.
That's that's not right
Yeah.
at all. But yeah, if you can eat one, they taste good. By all means, if they're
Absolutely.
not endangered,
Correct. Correct.
And
I mean, there are species that are struggling.
Correct.
But not all the species, not all sharks.
Right.
So they just need to be managed.
And that's kind of what blew my mind with the Mako decision is, they're so hard to catch, at least for us. For them to be endangered, I don't know who was putting hurting on them or who was catching a lot of them that they need to be.
I think it was a lot of commercial.
Yeah.
But there are wrecks, especially out like on the East Coast. They're fishing for Mako.
Okay.
So they just put a protection on them.
So Angie Holland is in the comments and she wants to know what's your favorite shark to eat.
Mako.
Okay. All right. The one we
there's
can't
no
have
doubt.
anymore.
Yeah, there's no doubt.
And
it's just like a steak.
It's so good.
Yeah.
Okay. And is that you can't don't touch Mako, can't have Mako? Is that what's the boundaries on that? Is that federal? So it's everywhere.
All.
And that's recent.
Okay.
That's like a couple months.
July.
July 22.
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay. And Clarence Seymour Sibo, we'll get to your question here in just a second. He's got
He's want to know about cobia?
No, it's actually a shark question. So I guess we can ask it now, and I'll put it on the screen too for everybody to be able to. But I'll read it out here. He says, "Does NOAA have any idea if we can change limits on shark to more than one per boat, especially on spinner sharks and black tip?" Great question.
Oh, that's a good question. So I think they can put petitions in.
Yeah.
Like right now, there's some going on for I think like hammerhead and oceanic white tip. So
to allow more to be caught.
Yeah, you can put a petition in. It's just the same for the state. Like if you want in state waters.
And he was asking for federal waters.
Yeah.
too.
So I believe you just put a petition in and start email. I think it's HMS that we do that. So I've only been in HMS for 6 months, so we'll get to that in a little bit. But I think you can write in and start like asking the process and how can we open it up.
I know the reason why he's asking that, and he's a charter captain and a lot of charter captains.
Depredation.
Oh my God.
I know.
They're everywhere.
It is very much on our mind.
Right.
Every meeting HMS goes to, we have a lot of like Marcus Dryman from Mississippi State. It's being looked at because it's not just the Gulf of Mexico; it's also the East Coast.
Right.
It's a water-wide problem at the or I don't know if it's a problem or our baseline's just shifted.
Yeah, well, I guess people were targeting sharks, and they kind of went down, and then they put a ban on them, and now they're kind of up, and it's like you can't fish for anything else because all you catch is sharks.
Yeah, and I don't know if it's like a shifting baseline problem. We're starting to see like shark species move around because of like changing water. So like species that never were like off of New York and Massachusetts, we're starting to see them. So there's definitely like a shift in a bunch of stuff going on.
Yeah. Okay.
Within the last couple of years.
Clarence Sibo says there's no public comment on HMS. I'm assuming he means there's no public forum or no public way to on the website.
There's like emails you can call in.
Okay.
But we do have like phone lines that people do answer. HMS is a little different the way it is structured. So not like other managed species. We have an advisory panel. We take their input. They're everywhere from commercial, recreational, environmental, and the academia.
Right.
And we like present stuff. They give us feedback, but we don't have to take it. They don't vote on it. As the managers, we deal with it internally. Whereas most other species, they have a panel, they vote on it, they make the rules. Okay. So our species are a little bit different.
Okay, and your species are mostly you said swords.
So billfish, so marlin, sailfish, swordfish, the tunas, but not like albacore
Right.
or false albacore. We deal with albacore, but not the little tunnies.
Yeah.
And then sharks.
Okay, so y'all are in charge of the sharks. So,
so let me. I'm make sure I'm hearing this right. Those are the species that NOAA is in charge of managing. Is that the right way to say
The
it?
HMS Management Division.
Okay, so everything else would fall not under NOAA's jurisdiction. That's
not
more of
under HMS. There's other like divisions that
Okay.
deal with other species.
Yeah, you got like the reef.
Yeah,
and
there's
inshore.
fluke.
Yeah,
I mean, they do deal with other things. It's just specifically my knowledge
Okay.
and my expertise is in that small niche.
right.
Okay, I'm learning.
Yeah.
I'm trying to keep up.
It's a lot. So like
It is a lot.
I've been there 6 months, and it's still kind of like I'm learning everything.
Yeah, like,
There's a lot
what
of
do you
steps.
do again?
Yeah, there's a lot of acronyms.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, it's a lot of like there are steps to everything.
Right.
Even more so than on the state side. So I've worked with the state side.
Yeah.
And now I'm in the federal.
Okay.
And it's a whole different world.
Oh, I bet.
You know, you're also
tape
dealing
everywhere.
fishermen who are in Maine versus the Mid-Atlantic versus the Gulf. And it's just a whole, you know, everybody's seeing different things and wants different things and have
And you're trying to police all of that more or less, right?
Yeah, we're trying to like make sure everybody has a resource to fish.
Yeah, and which is totally impossible when you're talking about fishing for Venice all the way up to East Coast.
Yeah.
There's I mean 10
dealing
different fisheries that way.
And then dealing with fish that are, you know, they spawn in the Gulf and then they're swimming up to Massachusetts.
Right.
And then coming back, you know? So it's like, how do you manage something like that?
Right.
So there's a lot of, you know, we're learning, like managers and scientists, there's new stuff coming out all the time.
Mm-hmm.
There's new papers, new information. We're always trying to take that in.
Yeah.
Yeah. We talked about it here on this show before a few times, like technology just keeps getting so much better, both for like your end, which we haven't talked about so much, and how y'all track and monitor these different types of species, but on the recreation commercial side.
I mean, yeah, we can tag a fish just like, I mean, could you imagine our great grandpas tagging a fish and then finding it in Florida the next day? You know what I'm saying?
But what I'm even saying is like with the way GPS and side scan sonar and all these updated electronics on boats, you can watch the fish, the guys that really know how to use that stuff.
Live scope.
Yeah, it's crazy. So I mean, they could decimate a population.
Yeah, and you're looking
fishermen could.
Engines,
not me, but
engines that can reach areas that were never touched.
Correct. Well, I think that's what we talked about on when Clarence was on. You know, if you had a 25, say 1995, 93, 94, any of those, if you had a 25-foot Mako with twins, you were the
bee's knees.
Golly, I want to go fish with that guy. Now you got 42-foot center consoles with 425s on the back that can
I'm seeing more.
You can go anywhere in the Gulf of Mexico and come back pretty much in one trip.
Miami Boat Show's got boats with 6 on them now.
Yeah.
It's incredible.
I saw there's a meme. He doesn't go on a boat. He just spins the world until he gets to where he wants to go.
That's pretty good. I've never seen that.
Yeah.
That makes sense.
Yeah, he's just going to spin the world until I get there.
Just turn it. Yeah, and I just sit in place.
Yeah, it's crazy. Like these old salty captains used to go out, you know, and they were like, man, like think about like when like the Perfect Storm, you know, the was it Andrea Gale went out, like nobody did that, and now like Joe Schmo can get a boat, you know, stick a bunch of engines on it, and now they're hanging out by the loop current. You know, you're doing research, and you're like, what are you doing out here?
Yeah, right. In a 14-foot skiff.
Yeah, you know, there's a lot of cowboys.
No survival gear, nothing.
Yeah.
Just
no radio, nothing. I'll be back. Don't worry about it. It'll be fun.
Call me later.
Yeah.
This is the main topic I want to get to, and the main topic while we brought it on, the reef in Mississippi. I know Alabama is putting out crazy reefs. They have an inshore reef that is unbelievable.
That are being manufactured here, right?
Correct.
A lot
like in Gulfport. And most of them are right there in Back Bay. And they're just loading them on barges and bringing them over there. What is the main reason that's holding Mississippi up on the man-made reef
deployment?
Yeah.
There's a lot of permits.
Is it?
It's getting permits. So I know okay. So I worked for DMR.
Okay.
I worked in shrimp and crab, but it's a small enough organization that you kind of help everybody.
Right.
So they were having a lot of issues, I think, federally getting the permits to put stuff out. You know, whereas here, I know Alabama's got a program where like you can buy material.
Right.
They put it out, and that is your number. You know, we don't have that program.
Okay. How does one go about getting that?
I was gonna say that's a tough answer, and again, I know you don't make the rules,
right?
You're not even there anymore. You've went on to NOAA, but it's like when a rec guy hears that, or even I guess on the commercial side hears that, it's like, I don't want to hear that it's a paperwork problem, right? Like I want to know that that to me is not a real problem. That's a fixable problem
Yes.
that the guys on our end shouldn't have to deal with. That bureaucratic stuff should be streamlined, right? If you
and Alabama should never beat Mississippi in anything,
except for football.
If we're behind Alabama, something's wrong.
Yeah. So you're looking. I came from Florida, so there's even harder to get reefs out there.
Okay.
Because there's a lot more like environmental groups. There's a lot more like
pristine
NGOs,
waters,
pristine waters, and
I would think that reefs and environmentalists would go hand in hand. No,
we don't know. So there's not a paper out there that says artificial reefs are great.
Okay.
They're helping a population.
Okay.
There's a lot of unknown and uncertainty to it still. Like Japan does a lot of studies on artificial reefs. They build artificial reefs specifically for a species.
Okay.
They've got like grouper hotels and lobster hotels. We here, I don't know if we've ever like really like, look, this is what works the best versus like we just take a bunch of stuff and throw it out there. I have seen some stuff in the Gulf of Mexico, washing machines.
Mm-hmm.
The best thing, honestly, is a chicken coop.
Yeah. Well, see, our buddies fish in Florida and Alabama, chicken coops, that's what they would buy, and they would make their money off of the coops. I mean, they would call them the coops, and that's where their numbers would be.
Yeah. All these are illegal.
Correct.
They're not like a known reef. They're not authorized. Like they're going out in the dead of night and taking their chicken coop out.
Correct.
But like, so once I left grad school, I went and worked with Florida with their snapper grouper program, doing offshore. So we used to do like hook and line, which we found out wasn't actually a really good way to study fish. We were doing side scan sonar. They've mapped out, I think, a pretty high amount of what the Gulf of Mexico looks like because it's also a federal program.
Right.
And then we had these stereo cameras. So we would find habitat and we would drop a camera pod, and it could film the fish. It can take measurements.
Okay.
So we could see what habitats were actually holding fish. Is it actually holding? You go over a hook and line.
They may not be biting.
They could be on the other side of the reef. Right. You might not be on it.
And it's not like you're more experienced. We did studies where we had like an experienced fisherman with scientists. We had interns drop, and there was no like that fisherman wasn't doing better.
No.
Right. How much foot of water are we talking here for that particular instance you're referring to?
We were going from just offshore to 180 meters.
So that's pretty deep.
450.
Yeah,
that's
okay.
Pretty deep.
I was going to say, because why not just throw a dive guy overboard and let him?
Yeah. Well, that's the problem. Like that's great.
That's too deep.
Diving, they do diving reef assessments.
Right.
Yeah.
But like
then you know.
Yeah, you got eyes on it.
If you can see, if the clarity's there.
But the problem with putting a diver in, most divers scare the fish. Whereas the pod would be just like if this is a pyramid, you drop the pod over here, and it can see.
We talking about like a GoPro, a bunch of or like an underwater camera or something like that. Okay.
Yes. It was incredible, and you could watch behaviors. Like we saw groupers, doing their grouper thing.
Yeah.
Right.
Eating everything inside.
Red groupers just like so cool.
Right.
Those huge Itahara Goliath groupers.
Goliath, yeah.
Just oh my goodness, it was incredible to watch. And this is now technology that we can put out there. We're not disturbing the fish. We're not removing them for science.
Mm-hmm.
That we can measure fish, see the number, see what habitat type is actually working.
It kind of reminds me of what we were talking about earlier about, did you say 50 years to figure out that the sharks like to eat the turtles? It's like you're saying there's no papers out there. There's no science that says reefs are definitely good.
Yeah.
But it's like there's a shit ton of like anecdotal evidence.
Yeah.
You're even speaking to it yourself.
So
that it helps.
I will get to that.
Okay.
So watching all this stuff. So if you look at a fish's, let's say American red snapper, we call them ARS.
Mm-hmm.
They are in the bay systems, in the seagrasses when they're
juveniles.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Then they move out to the next reef, and then the next reef, and then out and out until they're out and like they're supposed to be in deep water.
Mm-hmm.
When you get to those deep water sites, these are like I've never seen snapper look like dinosaurs. Huge snappers.
Yeah, just got barnacles growing all over them.
Yeah,
big,
they got
nasty,
that dinosaur face.
gnarly looking fish.
They're supposed to move like that.
So the bigger they get, the deeper they go.
They're supposed to.
Because they can survive, right? They can defend themselves.
Yeah. What happens when you drop a bunch of habitat now in the center? Why would they leave?
You're saying they do, or what?
There's some theories that they're staying. You know, the smaller, you're not seeing the big dinosaurs anymore.
Okay.
Because they're not moving out.
Okay.
They're just staying here in a very populated area. The more, put a fish tank and you put a bunch of fish in there, they're not going to grow that big.
I got you. Okay.
I'm just playing devil's advocate.
No, I understand.
Because I don't have the answer.
No. And that's the part about science, because you're right. Just because there's fish on a reef
doesn't mean their
the bigger
numbers are
global
good.
picture is not maybe better for the environment, the habitat.
Yeah.
I don't know.
So, like, as the devil's advocate, is that reef doing actually a good job?
Right.
I know it's making it accessible for fishermen.
Right. The amount of fish you pull up on end of your rod
Yes.
reel is not necessarily a great metric or indicator of
Right.
whether that fish
But
population is
on
doing
the
better.
other hand, any habitat for a fish is good, right? And when you, I'm guessing, so when you put something in the water, it's going to first attract bait fish, and then a bait fish attracts a bigger fish, and then that fish attracts a bigger fish. Doesn't that kind of make an ecosystem to where?
Right, but I think what she's saying is that, using one example of it, if that fish would have
Right,
normally went out deeper and got bigger, and granted there may be more nuance in it than that, right?
Yeah.
Than just it's a bigger fish. That bigger fish may need to be out there preying on some other thing to keep him in check, or
Right.
food for another shark. That now, you know what I mean? Anytime you move a link in the chain, you're going to affect like dominoes
And
all the way
that's
down.
that ecosystem-based management that we need to start looking at. If you move the cog here, how is it affecting everything else? Everything's linked.
Yeah.
It's a big open body of water.
Well, and I know that for a fact, because I mean, you can go to triple rig and you can fish for snapper all day.
Mm.
And you might not catch anything, but I know for a fact there are pigs that live at the triple rig.
Right.
And if you're saying those 20, 25, 30-pound snappers should be offshore eating something else, they have stayed because they're smart enough not to get hooked in the mouth, first of all, and then they know there's a buffet sitting right underneath them. Mm-hmm. So I guess that does make sense.
Yeah. We got a question here. We got a lot of questions that came through. Clarence said earlier the Shrimper Alliance is one of the biggest hurdles.
That's what we're looking. That was my next question.
So I was going to get to that.
Okay, let's go into that then. And I got another
moving down this career. So I did a bunch of cameras. We used to do how big is the CMAP trawl? 42. So NOAA's got a program called CMAP. It's a bottom trawl. It's done from Texas to Maine, and they do a bottom trawl assessment every year. Same time. It's been done the same way since I think the 70s. I was asking my husband. He's the captain of of a research vessel that pulls the CMAP bottom.
He's
trawls.
on the couch.
Yeah, he's over there.
Yeah, he's hanging out. So I did that for a while, and that's a way to look at reef fish assessment. Aside from the cameras is a new technology. This like bottom trawl, the way to assess like fish populations mostly is like to drag a net
over it,
right?
Identify see what it is. Yeah.
It sounds very old school, right? Compared to what we think about today.
You have a data set that's going back to the 70s,
right?
Like how can you ignore that? You could see what's been changing over time, and it's done twice a year, so you can see like temperature, weather, all that stuff. See what changes. Like when hurricanes hit, you can see the difference in the CMAP trawl data.
Mm-hmm. So some get covered up, some get
they move.
Right.
These are like spots that are from close to shore, offshore, and it's the whole Gulf, the whole East. Now it changes name like NEMAP, MARMAP, goes up the coast. The cameras are a new thing. Let's throw a camera down there. Now we don't have to disturb them. Mm-hmm. So like it keeps the fish in the water.
Right.
Because ultimately, when you do pull a trawl, we try and get the fish over as
but
alive as
some
possible.
of them are going to die. Yeah.
It's part of it.
Right.
When you're doing like assessments, you're looking at mortality from not only the project, but post-release mortality, assessments there's a lot going into that. So I did that. And then I fell in love with that salty sea captain and moved to Mississippi.
Yeah.
And I worked for the Shrimp and Crab Bureau at DMR. So I'm pretty versed in the shrimp situation.
Okay, Shrimpers Alliance, yeah.
So in the beginning, I said we're here to also preserve a fishery.
Correct.
So we can't, just because we want to put reefs down there and want to go snapper fishing, we can't take away the historical lines of the shrimpers.
Okay.
And I'm guessing historical lines is those
trawl.
Were set. Right, they trawl from Alabama to Mississippi, almost to through like Bayou Battery all the way around and come back around offshore.
Once they have a line and they didn't rip their net, they're going to pull that line.
Right.
Who says this is your lane, Shrimper? Who says that?
They do it.
So their actual coalition is the one that says, "Hey, we ran through here 3 times and there's nothing there. This is our lane."
So there's not specific lanes. Like once a shrimper throws a net and pulls it, he kind of goes back and he gets a good haul. He'll go back to that same spot.
Yeah.
Like I've been on with some fishing shrimp captains from. He's shrimped his whole life. He's in his 70s, and he's got still in his GPS the drags he would make,
right?
Because he knew he wasn't going to get hung.
I think what Joey was talking about more from the permitting side,
right?
Who owns it?
Like we're not against the shrimp. We're not against shrimpers at all. We love shrimp. We love eating shrimp. But I think the big thing was, especially for the charter boat captains, they were trying to put 1 and 2 together, FH 1 and 2, and then move 2 to 13. But in between 2 and 13, there's a old shrimp. So who says, "Hey,
this is unacceptable for reefs"?
Right. Who says this is the shrimper's path? You can't pour anything in there.
So that would go to like they put into like probably the state,
okay,
and then there's open public comment. It opens up to everybody.
Right.
Then it gets to the assessment of, is this a good idea to put there? Is it necessary?
Right.
Do we have to have that reef connecting that huge area? So there's a lot to get factored into why or why not you put an artificial reef down there.
Okay.
I never understood, and like again, I'm not attacking the shrimpers. This probably the oldest stuff that we have around here. We want to keep it, but why do they get to say this is a shrimping route where you can go and say, well, we can put this reef right here? You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Is it just they're grandfathered in, or how does that work?
And we've also said, not to interrupt, but like to piggyback on that, is like with the way technology is, and you've mentioned it already, why can't we build these, concrete reefs and tag them with some type of GPS situation or side scan sonar or whatever, and build a map and say, here's shrimpers, here's where we've now put this, this reef.
You can put it on a GPS map.
Correct.
Yeah.
Correct.
It's money.
A
lot of it's money. That's expensive. Aside like a nice side scan is like you're looking at $35,000.
But y'all don't already have that already that you're using for other things, no? Or any piece of equipment that would serve that
not
purpose.
To the level that it would give like a really nice picture.
What if we even just, as we put them down, which I know they can move through hurricanes, bad weather, whatever, just marked it that way?
You can. We could do that.
And relay that message to the shrimpers. I guess they're probably going to fight over turf regardless.
Yeah,
right?
It's a turf.
Because like at what point do you say, okay, no more, we're not putting any more? Because it's like that is the theory of the commons. Like you're going to always want a little bit more.
Right.
Because
Correct.
you see this happening.
Right,
you just want more. Where do you stop?
Right.
And
I guess looking at it from the fishing side of view, it's weird that you can say, we've always shrimped here, so we're going to continue to shrimp here, and there's nothing you can do about it. When there's, I guess, I hate to say it, the fleet's shrinking. Shrimping fleet's dwindling down.
The shrimp population is changing. I've seen
Correct.
a huge shift. So I worked for DMR for 3 years. I've seen a huge shift because habitat and other environmental factors are causing changes. So we can't be in this mindset anymore of like, I've done this forever and we're going to stay. You're going to have to shift. Things are moving, things are changing. Loss of marsh is causing, things grow in the marsh. You take the marsh away, what happens? It declines. Everything declines. Water temperature is a huge thing. As the waters warm up, things are going to change. That's what we're having problems in Florida, the coral reefs. It's heating up. It's cooking them.
It's killing them. Yeah.
Losing habitat. You're seeing warm water sharks moving up towards Massachusetts more.
Climate's getting hotter.
I don't want to say that. I don't like saying that.
Yeah.
There's a change.
Yeah.
Right.
There's a climate change. I don't like the other term.
Right.
It's not a real term.
Climate change.
There is a change.
Yes.
Right.
Well, and we talked about it earlier. I mean, the stuff that's come down to Mississippi. We talked about. We dabbled in the Bonnie Carey. We dabbled in this thing that just happened in the train that just.
East Palestine, Ohio.
Yes.
And
you got to think all that stuff leads back into the Mississippi River. This was going to come right into the Gulf of Mexico.
Everything leads back to the ocean.
Right.
And it's a scary thing to not know what it is, what's happening.
Clarence said it's like on Yellowstone. Don't give them an inch of bottom. That's funny.
I mean, are you very versed in the Shrimper Coalition?
No.
Okay.
So we had to stay kind of neutral.
right.
As a I've always worked government.
Right.
Whether state fed, you kind of have to stay within this neutral situation.
That's understood.
Because you have to see it from both sides. If you become biased, like we're not allowed to take free things.
Right.
You know, so like, don't ever get upset if you're like talking to DMR and, hey, here's a shirt. We can't take that because it looks like a payoff.
Right.
And we don't want that. We want to try and be as neutral to the situation as we can.
Yeah. We had some comments. Dominic, thank you for your comment. He said, great episode. He works Coast Guard as a boarding officer and does a ton of fisheries off.
I've ran into them a time or two.
Yeah, Mississippi, Louisiana, and he works with NOAA enforcement officers frequently. Thanks for tuning in, Dominic. We appreciate that. Ronald Williams, thank you for your comment. He says Mississippi has not updated their reefs in years, but Alabama updates
and a lot of it comes to money
all the time.
Really?
Who are you going to pay to do that? Don't forget, we're living in unfortunately, it's a rather poor state for being on a coast.
Right.
Yeah,
you're not Florida. You're not getting all that tourism, all that money, all that environmental, like nonprofit. You know, you got Captains for Clean Water over there that are like a driving force with a lot of money, changing things. We don't necessarily have that here yet.
But it could you contract it out? Like, I know a lot of the pyramid reefs that I guess you call them coops, so we're building or over here that are going to Alabama. So if we can build them here, I guarantee you we can get a barge to take them out there and sink them. You know what I'm saying?
Who's going to pay for that?
If you just give them the green light, most of the guys around here will do it for free.
If you give me the green light, I know where I'm dropping them.
But there still has to be some sort of regulation. You know, you can't just throw a bunch of garbage out there and like. It
so who's in charge of the DMR's in charge of the reefs?
Yeah.
Okay, so DMR would be the ones to take them on a barge and drop them in these sections.
Correct.
So
then it has to be monitored. So you can't just dump a bunch of stuff off. I almost said trying not to curse.
That's okay.
I'm trying not to. We're trying to be professional.
Okay. All right. It's up to you.
Now, if you meet me at a bar, it's a whole different.
Right.
You know, but you can't just throw a bunch of stuff up there and go, well, I guess it'll work.
Right.
So there is a monitoring program. You drop something off, we have to monitor it for a certain amount of years. Is it doing anything? Is it making it better? Is it making it worse? Did it move? You know, there's a whole other process to just dropping stuff off the back of a boat.
Yeah. So, I mean, like FH1, FH2, already there. Okay. Been through 10 or 12 hurricanes, pretty decent ones. A lot of that stuff sunk in the mud right now. If you look on scans, there's really nothing there.
Yeah.
It's there. So could we get a petition or something? How would we say, look, DMR, it's time to update this? We need
I feel so bad. They're going to get a lot of phone calls.
Oh, yeah. Well, that's what we need to do.
I mean, that's the best way to do anything is they're there for you.
Right.
They literally tell us we're in customer service.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, I mean,
all managers, all whatever. We're here.
What I'm hearing is we need to lean on some of the contacts that we have and set up some type of public forum. And
if you're talking tourism, and you're talking money. It don't make dollars. It don't make sense. A lot of people come down here to fish, right?
Yes.
So they'll either go to casino or they're going to go fish. If you run out of places to fish, we got to do something to rebuild that, right? And if you already got this section that's already sanctioned off from the shrimpers, let's rebuild that first and then try to move ground. You know what I'm saying? To me, it would make sense.
Those poor guys are going to get a bunch of phone calls, and I already apologize.
That's all good.
But I mean, that's a lot of people don't realize that you could just call your state or your feds.
People don't realize they can call their supervisor, their county supervisor for a problem, right? I mean,
what gets me is, Alabama, Mississippi, they're brothers. But for them to be so far ahead of us in the reef management system blows my mind because I know they don't have that much more money than us.
That's what I'm thinking.
You know what I'm saying?
That's kind of where I'm at.
Yeah, and maybe Florida, we understand Florida, but Alabama should be on the same tier that we're in.
And if I could, like, to recap everything, and again, you're one voice, and you're not the end all be all, but from your perspective, I'm hearing for us on the reefs, it's a permitting, delay, permitting hurdle. Let's call it that. Money, funding to have these reefs built, deployed, monitored, right? And what is that? I got 2 bullet points. What would be?
I guess the Shrimper Coalition.
Coalition. Okay. Yep. Right.
Because you can't do that.
And what else as a synopsis of this particular topic? Is 3 enough? Are we there?
I say it's good enough to have a conversation.
Okay. Yeah. And that way, like I said, like I'm thinking in my head, like maybe we should reach out to DMR. Would that be a great place to start?
Probably. And it's just to have it organized. Just don't call and be like, we want more reefs. Like we can't do anything about that. Right. You have to have some sort of, hey, we would like to see, it helps to have specifics. Because as managers, when you're just like, well, we need this fixed. And it's like, well, we're doing what we think to the best of our knowledge. Let
me ask you a question here. Just went to Sea School in Bayou Battery, full shrimp boats. do they mainly pool in Mississippi waters, or
No.
they mainly pool in Alabama waters?
They're mostly federal.
So they go deep.
Yes.
They're like they're Royal Red boats.
What? Florida and Texas, but a lot of it's federal. They're big boats. You know,
Like
those
Royal
big,
Red, yeah.
They're going federal water.
Okay.
Yeah, like
so basically the inshore.
Those are those like Lafitte's, your smaller, your
Yes.
skimmers.
Right, yes.
That kind of is more your inshore, but those big Bilo battery. Congrats on going to sea school.
Yeah.
It's pretty tough. I just finished mine in April.
Yeah. So you're a Capitan?
I'm 100-ton.
Absolutely. So
That's what Joey got. Yeah.
Yep.
That's cool.
I guess I'm the only asshole at the table don't have one.
You don't know the handshake. Man.
Yeah.
We got our own handshake.
I can't
We got
get
our
in
own
the club.
handshake. Yeah.
I can't even get in the club, dude.
Spivey, you got 100 ton?
He ain't got his regular ton.
He can't even get a driver's license. He
Nah.
walked up here.
Where were we at right before that? That was really funny.
What?
What was you said something right before that?
Oh, the big boats.
Oh,
Yeah,
the Alabama.
there we go.
How does the Alabama fleet work with the reefs, and we can't, or we don't, or we haven't yet? We haven't yet.
I'm going to make the assumption that there was a group who got together, had some sort of plan,
Right.
you know, had some sort of
Right.
funding,
Initiative, yeah.
finding funding, and took the initiative to make it happen.
Okay.
So if you're not organized, it's hard, you know, to get anything done.
Let me know in the comments down below, guys that are watching live, and if you're listening to this on the replay or whatever, shoot us a message somehow through some of the socials. Would y'all be interested in us trying to reach out to the DMR and setting up something somewhere? We could even do it with food or drink if they're allowed to
Fight
do
the
that.
power. They can't take anything.
No,
They can't take anything.
not fight the power, like a town hall meeting.
Yeah.
Right. And we could set it up with some microphones and really do a Q&A.
Well, I mean, I guess you got to have a voice. You got to have a spark to start.
An
it.
organized
Right.
voice.
This would be step one, you know.
Yes.
And because that's what I'm hearing you say.
Yeah, and that's what a lot of, like, I go back to I really follow Captains for Clean Water. You know, the Everglades is dying. They need to fix the Everglades.
Right.
They need to fix the water flow.
Well, Okeechobee, they released all that fresh water.
All those captains, they're all boat captains, all inshore guides came together, and they're fighting Tallahassee. And they're winning.
Okay.
You know, they're going to legislation and fixing things.
Yeah.
And, you know, hey, this is what we want. This is, you know, and they've got an incredible team. There's lawyers and,
Right.
you know,
well,
but they started somewhere.
I'm all about, like, you know, if there's a real issue, right? And typically, you know, I think there's like diplomatic ways to solve issues, right? And sometimes maybe one side doesn't know what the other side wants,
Correct.
or it's not been communicated appropriately. I don't like to just sit back and I'm not saying anybody's doing this, but, like, you know, only complain. Like, well, let's get together then. Let's get a little group together and let's have a conversation and see what we can do. Maybe it ends up in a shouting match. I don't know, but it'll be fun to see, you know? Or maybe,
I always enjoyed those commission meetings where they got a little rowdy.
Yeah.
So I could sit in the background because I wasn't getting yelled at.
Right. So that was the Reeves.
I got one that you're about to go into. There's a comment from earlier. I didn't want to miss it. Walter, you met him, Joey, at the boat show the other day.
Yep.
Walter asked, and I think, Spivey, I think this is what you might have been alluding to through the text message. I don't know. Listen, if it's not, we'll go to your question after this. But Walter wanted to know, he said he's interested why the federal government stopped issuing federal reef permits. It's caused a rise in price for them, and it may make them unattainable for many captains to get.
I can tell you that right now.
And now, me being the non-captain on the table, as I've already admitted, is he talking about? What is he talking about? Is he talking about like what we've talked about here before?
Let her explain it. She knows it.
So there's only, we mentioned it earlier. There's so many permits out there, and that is a limit. The amount of people taking
for a charter boat captain.
Yeah,
this is what I thought he was talking about.
Yes.
Okay,
so there's only a certain amount of permits allowed. It's not just a reef fish. They do it for a long line. There's a bunch of fisheries that have a permit, and to limit the amount of people who are taking from the resource. And I'm not saying, like, maybe I am saying you're a captain, you go out and you're catching fish all the time.
Right.
You know, if we give a free for all, again, it's that idea of the commons. Well, if you're the captain and I'm the captain and you're the captain, we're all going to go out there and constantly just take.
Correct.
But if we limit the number, we can better regulate. So commercial fishing, we regulate it pretty well. We know what's going on. We know where your boat is.
Right.
You have to
have monitors on your boat and all this stuff.
There's a lot going on. You have to report your catch, your discards. There's apps for it now. Like, we are trying to make it easier. But for wreck,
Tails and Scales?
Tails and Scales, yeah.
It's in the Brownwater app, just in case anybody didn't know. Keep going, sorry.
But we have that for commercial.
Right.
And that is so we can better, and the reason they're getting Tails and Scales is because we didn't really know how many snapper were out there. You know, and you can't put amount of scientists out there because you got to pay for their paychecks.
Right.
And the boat and the equipment. So the best way is to do like a citizen science. You go out there, you tell us what you're catching. We can now see what's happening within the recreational.
So we're the study. We're the lab rats.
Yeah, you're just helping because like without the knowledge, we're going to make these assumptions that with the knowledge we have, with the resources we have been given, make a decision. But you guys are out there all the time.
Okay.
You're giving us information that we didn't have before.
Right.
Like the biggest thing. So I did do MRIP when I lived in South Florida. MRIP is okay.
Okay.
I think there is going to be an overhaul of it.
You got to explain what MRAP is. We don't know what that is.
Those acronyms again.
Marine Recreational Intercept
Sure.
Program. So when you go to a boat dock, you'll see like a DMR person.
Right. And they're sitting there.
Hey, what'd you catch? Blah, 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 blah.
Right.
So that was the best way to get recreational fishing information.
Okay.
But like if there's like 4 boats coming, so I used to work South Miami on a really beautiful summer day. There'd be 400 boat trailers.
Yeah. You can only get a couple of them.
Right. Right.
How am I going to hit everybody?
Yeah. The internet's changed that for every thing, right? Every industry, every, it almost.
How am I going to you don't have to give an MRIP. You don't have to tell that survey at the boat dock. It's optional.
Okay.
You don't have to show. Now everybody in Mississippi is going to be like, don't look at my fish.
Yeah.
It's an optional program. I encourage people to do it because the more information we have, the better we can make regulations, opening, all that stuff. But if you like in Miami, it was very difficult. It's a whole different culture down there. What'd you catch today? Nothing. And I can see they have fish in the thing.
Right.
But they're not going to show me.
Right.
Or like they wouldn't do a survey. There was a huge language barrier.
Yeah. A lot of Spanish speaking.
Yeah. So trying to get recreational, and then also there's private boat docks. You have them here. Mm-hmm. People don't launch from the boat ramps. They're going from their house.
Yeah.
Right.
How do you get that?
Yeah. Right. You can't.
People overnight. Well, they do it now overnight. When I did it, you didn't have to, thank goodness. I didn't want to sit at the boat ramp in Miami overnight.
No. You might not have any tires left on your truck.
I probably wouldn't be alive.
Yeah.
But the swordfish, you go out, you swordfish during the night, and you come back. Well, it would get missed.
Because y'all work regular hours, right? 5:30, y'all are out, done.
Now they've changed it. Now it's a 24-hour. They'll catch it.
Okay.
But, that was the best way to get recreational fishing. Now you're getting these apps. And I think with the charter, if I'm not mistaken, they have to report.
Tells the scales do, yeah.
Yeah.
So we got to put our VIN number in, and we got to put where we launched, what time we launched, how many fish we caught, how many fish we threw back.
I think... So honestly, if I see the future, this is my personal opinion. This is not the opinion of everything.
Right.
I think reporting like that is going to become a norm.
Yeah, I agree with that.
And I don't
that it will be that way.
It will be.
James McCandless, who was a guest on the show already,
Charterboat captain.
Yep, he said that he likes Tails and Scales. However, writing a ticket and confiscating legal fish for not logging a trip is wrong, in his opinion. But then he followed it up with a ticket is okay, but confiscating legal fish is not okay. So
yeah,
but Jane, that is 100% true. It just that's, I guess, if you put it in what you're talking about right now, that's the only way you can do it. The only way to police it is make sure
you have
across
to have
the board,
some authority about it.
Yeah.
But I get like him, like, why would maybe, I don't know. Taking the fish, what are y'all going to do with it? You're going to eat it? Is it going to be wasted?
They'll probably bring it back and cut it open. And
I don't know.
Put it in science and then put it in
science.
Lake Crisco.
We put it in science.
We put it in science.
I know Florida, we donated all of our fish that we pull from the water. We get donated to some shelter.
Okay.
Yeah. Usually the battered women.
But then like I'm thinking, like you talk about government regulation and stuff. Like if it's a confiscated fish, you can't just donate that to a shelter.
There's a letter.
So does that go to like loaves and fishes on Sunday?
Right. Well, I was going to say because then you don't know how they handled that fish.
Well, that's like when we used to fish tournaments.
There's red tape there.
Yeah, we used to fish tournaments. They all go to battered women's shelter, and I was like, them damn battered women's eating better than I am.
Yeah, we did a whole study with shrimp, and I made sure we didn't keep anything because we were using grant money to buy the shrimp from fishermen of the coast. But then I made sure we took it to like so I had just moved here, so I'm still like, there was a battered woman in Ocean Springs. We took it to them. We took a bunch of that to them. Some of the other church like what do you call it? Food banks.
Food banks, yeah. Yeah, that's tough though, because you got to eat that now. You know what I'm saying? It's not like canned
It was
food.
frozen.
Yeah,
We
yeah,
had them
yeah.
frozen, you know,
Yeah.
so we packed them real nice. And I think a lot of it should be donated. I think that's a great way that you're doing the science on the species. It should go back to the
Yeah,
community.
you don't want to waste it.
Yeah, they're saying they always the officers ask, "Is there anything on board that shouldn't be?" And a couple people say their response is just you.
Well, I mean, it's a devil's advocate.
Well-
It's just like police. It's just like, I mean, anybody who writes you a ticket, you're going to get mad.
Right.
But I mean, if you didn't have police, imagine us not having police, and imagine us not having DMR. Imagine us not having anything. You know what I'm saying?
Especially nowadays. I mean, you could literally destroy, I feel like, a population. I think, and I say that.
I don't even think just a population. I think you could take out the habitat to eliminate all populations.
Yeah, because it's the stages. You got small, you got the breeders, and
Yeah.
once you wipe them all out, they're not coming back.
I mean, that's what you're looking at with gag right now. Florida just released a study that less than 2% are males.
Mm-hmm.
And it used to be 17%, and so it's been fished down.
Is that because the males get bigger?
Yep, they're copper. When you go fish for copperbelly,
right?
You're fishing a male. So you take all, that's what everybody wants. People want big trophy fish.
Right.
I think they taste bad.
Yeah,
I'd rather have like a nice
one.
little,
yeah.
So I've even kind of shot out and I've talked to some charter boat captains like in Florida, and it's been like, well, what do you think we should do? And they go, we should have slots.
Well, I don't understand why we don't. I mean, that's also like the big bull reds and everything like that here. Like, who in God's name wants to keep a 42-inch redfish?
And
I don't want to clean it.
Yeah.
You got to have a hacksaw to clean it, and there's not much meat on it. I'd rather have an 18 and a half.
Yeah. And a lot of the groupers like that. I think they're so much tastier when they're just like, nice size.
Yeah.
Versus like these big ones, they're kind of wormy. They're no.
Yeah. But that 2% of those groupers are like, yeah, keep doing it because I got all these, females.
The problem is the population's tanking.
Yeah, I mean, it makes sense, but I don't know. It's tough. Any fish, I think, once it gets bigger, I don't know of any fish that gets bigger and tastes better.
Yeah. But the problem is they get bigger and they get more fecund. They got more eggs.
Right.
So those are our big breeders.
Right.
Because I don't know if not in the fish I've studied, there's like not senescence. Like whales have senescence. They're kind of like humans. When they get old, they get like, they're not breeding. They're just kind of there.
Yeah. Okay.
And I have not.
They've reached maturity and past it.
Yeah. They go through whatever. They call it senescence. It happens in humans. It's like when you go through menopause and stuff. You're just kind of like.
I'm here.
Around.
I'm just a number. Yeah.
You're not contributing to anything.
Spivey, how's that feel?
Oh man. Dominic said, he's our Coast Guard guy in the comments. He said, imagine if there was no law enforcement presence off of Texas with the Mexican. I don't know, lanchas. I'm sorry, I can't. I'm an idiot.
Oh, it's probably all the
decimating red snapper.
Then it's not even that. It's not that. Like we have interactions with HMS.
Say that again, Spivey, off camera.
If he is in Texas,
he's a U.S. Coast Guard officer. So
if we have somebody fishing out of Mexico,
they have to have permits.
Mexican
international waters.
But some of them are not fishing not fishing international waters.
That's a long way.
Yeah, the question is someone who leaves from Mexico to fish, can the Coast Guard? I'm sure there's boundaries where the Coast Guard, and he'll probably answer this, where they can intercept and
they do a lot of it. So like both NOAA has an OLE and the Coast Guard help a lot because we deal a lot with that with HMS.
Right.
Because a lot of that species open water. So they do help us a lot. They are some great, and they actually Coast Guard will intercept even at the dock.
Really?
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right, we got a couple of good questions. Red snapper are more plentiful than pinfish. Why are they so regulated?
That was my next category to get into.
Do you eat pinfish?
If they're big enough.
Are you going out there and spending hundreds of dollars on a charter to go catch pinfish?
Right.
That's why.
Okay. I don't.
So when it comes to the snapper,
we don't regulate anything that's not a money generator.
Okay, but I guess what he's saying is there's more of them though. I guess he's saying there's still a ton of them.
Yeah, there is
a
lot, but like I said with that camera stuff, we weren't seeing a lot of the big guys. We're seeing a lot of the
juveniles,
not the juvenile, the next step up, like subadult and young adult. We're seeing a ton of them out there, but that's because we put a moratorium on there. They bred, they were able to get out the reefs, and so we're at the same age class that is now like growing up. But there's a lot of them because we stopped the snapper fishing.
Correct.
So now they're there. But now we need to get them to grow up.
So you're saying the restrictions y'all put on has got this new group coming up, and then once this new group gets up, you might be able to go back with the camera and say, "Hey, we got enough of them. Let's change this, or let's not change this, and keep doing what we're doing."
Well, also, I guess too, the perspective again, and we kind of talked about this at the beginning of the perspective of the recreational or commercial fisherman, what he sees on a daily basis versus the science that y'all are looking at it from, right?
Yes.
I see snapper all around my boat,
Correct.
but you're saying they're not the appropriate size that
we would like to see.
Correct. That the regulations are in place for.
Yeah. Okay. And also, like, as a scientist, we're looking at like a whole coast. When you go out to fish, you're going to a spot.
Right.
Or another, you're looking at a very small scope versus when you're trying to manage and regulate an entire area.
Okay.
I think, and I don't know if this is your fight, which is probably not your fight, but I think the main fight is between commercial and recreational. I mean, recreational gets to go out there and take 2 per person. Commercial can go out there and take 12 to 15 and just rape the whole thing. And that's a little weird. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, that's one of the questions, the commercial versus rec guys. Somebody said pinfish is a delicacy, by the way.
Oh,
pinfish is good if you can find one big enough.
There's a couple of things that I'm shocked.
Kroger's good too.
Yeah, I eat them. I'm sorry, but did I interrupt your question?
No,
I see where you're going.
Who regulates that? Who regulates
the
quota between commercial and recreational?
And that's the manager's job.
The manager of
like
that fishery.
Okay.
So I'll go back. So I don't do it. I'm in a different
yeah. So I'm sure it's online.
Yeah.
It's all public.
It's public knowledge, right?
You can you have to snoop a little bit through. I mean, a lot of it is very high language.
Right.
Which is, it's hard. There are, we use a federal registry, something, FRN we call it. And it has everything.
Okay.
Why we do it, how it,
Let's do this real quick as so just speaking on snapper. Can you walk us down to the best of your ability? If this is out of your niche, then we'll skip it. But who manages the snapper population in South Mississippi for us?
Mississippi does now.
Okay, so DMR is at the top,
yes.
Right? That's the organization. Mm-hmm. And then how would it break down from there? If you know the answer to this,
the Finfish Bureau.
Okay, correct. There we go. Now we're getting somewhere. Finfish Bureau. Okay, yep. Then there's going to be a manager there.
So DMR is kind of interesting. They are both the scientists and the management.
Okay.
Rolled into one thing. So Florida has
state level.
Yeah, Florida has the science and then the managers. They don't do both. Mississippi does both.
Right, and a couple years ago, it was all managed by the feds.
Yes.
Correct.
Yes. So now the feds said you can take
manage
your own.
Each state has its own.
Correct.
Yeah.
But the feds said for the states to manage, you have to come up with a program to count the tails and scales.
Right.
Okay.
That's where that came from.
Okay.
They had to be able to figure out a way to manage the red snapper.
Okay.
When the feds handed it over.
Right.
So that's who manages Mississippi's state red
snapper
Okay.
population.
So if we wanted to complain about that, we would go to
Say it again.
Hey.
Finfish.
Just DMR.
DMR.
Yes. Finfish.
Yes.
All right. Well, that's a great starting point. Correct. It's a bureau.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
And okay.
And
I wondered,
pelagics, all different categories.
Is that listed on their website as such?
Yeah.
Okay.
You go on, and I think it there's on the top right when you first come on the page. It breaks it down to different bureaus. Okay. It says what the bureaus are doing.
Well, we're going to reach out to them either to have them on the show.
And I don't think a lot of people would complain about. I mean, a lot of people would complain about the quota, but the difference in the quota between recreational and commercial is ridiculous.
Well, that
you know what I'm saying?
That's going to be like any other type of legislative battle to me. Correct me if I'm wrong.
Correct.
That's going to be who's got the best representation in Jackson for this particular issue, and who's got more money or more stroke, aka.
Now, look, I don't want to say
that doesn't matter what you're talking about.
It does come down to some of the science and management, because recreational fishing has a lot of money.
Correct.
There's a lot of money.
But are they organized, and do they have?
It depends where you are.
Lobbyists.
Yeah,
is exactly what that is.
It depends where you are, what state you're from. You can form something like that.
Correct.
So isn't that kind of what
I don't believe
CCA and these other people were supposed to be doing? But
that's kind of my point. Just for instance, and I don't know this to be true. I haven't researched this yet, but the commercial guys probably have a better. Either they're organized better.
Correct.
They go to more fins and. What was it? Finfish meetings, or they go to Jackson more often with a group, maybe not themselves, right? And maybe the rec guys are just recreational.
Whatever. Yeah. They just complain about it and don't do anything about it.
And they're not organized, right? And that's why I say, if we could organize a get together, a town hall meeting, or whatever, to at least get that process started or get those guys in the same room together, you may see some change.
Correct. If you have a singular word and a singular.
Oh, Lord.
Hold on. Let's see. Hold on, Trevor.
I was friends with all these
Moncrief.
people, and I don't think I am anymore.
Oh shit. Okay, hold on. There we go. Ronald did it. Here, Ronald. I don't know if he just knew that or if he's googling.
Well, look, seriously.
Oh, Google.
Yeah, serious talk. Don't
Google.
Don't call
Google.
them.
He
Yeah.
said that Google's
Look,
female. She knows everything.
Look, seriously.
That's awesome, Ronald.
For
Way to
us
go.
to bombard them with questions tomorrow,
it's not
going to work. You have to have a plan. You have to have it thought out, and you have to have numbers. So don't just call up there tomorrow and say, "Hey, I heard a podcast say that you were the person I need to complain to, and this is it."
A couple things about that. You're right, but here's the thing: all of this is public knowledge.
Correct.
Right? This is all on the internet.
We haven't done anything.
We have not uncovered anything at all.
Right.
But sometimes when you bring it to light, it's like, oh, I can do this. Oh, I have a voice.
Correct.
And so I know I'm going to get a bunch of texts like tonight, tomorrow.
No.
But I mean, one person complaining is not going to do.
No.
And here's another thing. And you know this, like federal employees are paid by tax dollars, and they work. You already said that they told you you're a customer. How'd you say it earlier?
Customer service.
Customer service, right? That's their job, is to answer these questions.
Correct.
So unless you're just being an asshole about it and typing vulgarities in your email, if you're asking,
they should respond.
They should. And if they get 20 emails tonight, then they know that there are people out there who care about that.
Correct.
When you talk about an issue, and I've dealt with this in other categories that have nothing to do with the outdoors, if a legislator gets 10 emails about something,
that's his job.
Especially at the state level. No. He knows that there's something going on. No one calls their representatives.
Right.
No one calls their supervisors. So if 10 people do specifically on an issue, that's a lot, and it will get their attention.
It gets talked about.
Right.
Yeah.
And that's what they're there for.
Squeaky wheel.
Right.
A lot of it is also a conversation. You get a fisherman on the phone as like a scientist or a manager, you can talk to that person. Hey, why are you doing this? Well, let me explain why we're doing it. Yeah. And it helps to open up those doors, and there's an exchange of knowledge. I've always worked on like commercial boats. I enjoy working with the commercial sector.
Uh-huh.
And I've been on boats where it's like, oh, you're just here to shut us down. I'm like, no, I'm not here to shut you down. I mean, I like to eat seafood. I like to eat U.S. caught seafood.
Right.
U.S. caught seafood.
Yep.
If you're not out there going to restaurants and asking where your seafood is from, you're part of the problem.
I did it at I'm not going to call them out because I like this store, but I picked up a bag of shrimp. They looked decent. They were very cheap. And as I was walking by, one of the guys was working there, I was like, "Are these Gulf shrimp?" And he was like, and I went,
yep,
dropped them back down and walked straight out.
We're talking about, I go to restaurants. If I go order a grouper sandwich, I want to know what kind of grouper and where is it from. Because usually they won't lie because they're so taken aback by it.
I was gonna say, I bet like the poor waiter or waitress is like,
they're like, I gotta go talk to the chef.
Minnesota.
It's fish with
like a unicorn.
I got it out of the refrigerator.
Like, I don't know.
Most places will answer you because they're usually so like taken aback, and then they're usually like, well, why? I'm like, well, I'm a fishery biologist and I like to support our U.S. fishermen.
Yeah. Brent Owen said, "Let's lighten the mood. Does she prefer freshwater or saltwater?
Saltwater.
There we go.
Freshwater are fake fish to me.
It is. It's not even real.
I always refer to it as like kissing your sister. It's kind of the same, but it's not. You know what I'm saying?
Terrible.
Freshwater is like kissing your sister.
I will admit, like, I do not eat catfish.
Yeah.
Okay, no, I like catfish. I like freshwater catfish.
Oh, here we go. He's a catfish man over here. Freshwater catfish guy.
I like pond raised.
Yeah, we do.
I like going fishing. I'll go fishing for them when it's like the only thing to do.
Yeah. When it's not sticking cobia and triple tail.
Right.
I don't eat catfish. I did jokingly. Yeah. I mean, they're real fish.
It's like kissing your sister. It's kind of the same, but it ain't.
If I'm going to go out in the water.
You're not making a South Mississippi podcast look good.
Yeah, you're right. You've
already been stereotyped.
Yes.
Spivey, did that answer your question that you was texting earlier about, was it the reef? No, what was it? Go shoot it out.
So the question I have about reefs as far as recreational fishing, and I understand, I grew up here. Like my family.
Do you want to just jump right here and sit down? I know you're not afraid of the camera.
I play bagpipes, so it's hard for me to hear.
Yeah. Well, everybody on the live's like, what is this?
Yeah, right there. Don't sit
on them.
Yeah.
Let's see. Well, you're not going to be recorded because it's too late. But
just
ask the question.
Yeah, just ask the question. No, put the damn headphones on.
Just throw it on.
At least, Byron.
Yeah, go ahead. Throw it.
Nice
throw
hat.
On her. All right.
Oh, you're not on.
Well, it's because he's. Hold on. Try it now. No, you can't. It's not going to work because we're already recording. Well. Sorry. Just ask her the question, and I'll repeat it for everybody.
So the question I have is, as far as the reefs, how often are they updated? Because like they were talking earlier, it seems like we grew up here, like we're locals, like probably 2, 3, 4 generations.
Yeah.
So the question I have is like when you have something as far as like FH1, FH2, you know, you go out there and you can see like a change in the elevation on the bottom.
Mm-hmm.
How often do they go out there? It's already established.
Yeah. How often do they scan it and update them?
Yeah.
So we're building these things, shipping them to Alabama. Why are they not being brought in our local waters for our local fishermen to be either put in or to keep it established?
Yeah.
I think we did. Did we touch on that?
Yeah, pretty much money.
Yeah.
The personnel going out there to like monitor and like scan it. You know, it all takes money.
Yeah.
It all takes time. You know, it's not even just.
Yeah, we hit on that. That was a bullet points we talked about earlier. We hit on that.
So my question is, if it's a money thing, we have enough recreational fishermen out here, and I'm friends with quite a few people. I know at least 4 people on the coast. So
nobody can hear him. That's what sucks.
We can have fundraisers. We can
More
raise money.
Money Spivey.
We can put together things to like bring money in to the legislature or whoever needs to build these things to have them dumped in the same area where they're already established on.
That's a good point. Yeah. What Spivey's saying is that he knows enough people around here who are concerned
4
about
of
that.
them.
Yeah, 4 people at least that we could, but that's that we could take and put reefs that are already in spots that are.
I would guess it's probably different funds.
Well,
like we can't have a fish fry and bring the money to the DMR and say, "Hey, build a reef." It's probably got to come from something else, right? A
singular pot. You know, some of it's got to, and I don't know the behind the scenes of like legislature and government. I don't understand how the money. I'm sure it goes that way and like trickles down, and you can give a singular pot. But what happens when you got to now monitor that reef for 10 years? Are
right.
They gonna,
right.
I know, but once you change it, you now still have to monitor it.
Right.
And do you have the money to pay for that for the next 10 years?
Yeah.
Well, yeah.
No.
Hey,
everybody's gonna fizzle out after the first 2 years.
Brent, his audio is off because we already started the recording, so I can't turn it on. They're wondering why they can't hear anything you're saying. So
he's got a face for radio, anyways.
Yeah. But we touched on that, and that's what we're going to do. We're going to try to get a meeting set up together, and you're going to be head of communications director for
We just delegated you.
Yeah.
I mean, I think it's good to sit down and be like, we want to expand, or we want to like alter or take care of. What will it take? How much money? What do we need to put in place to get this ball rolling?
Right.
So
as a unified
nobody can
voice.
hear you. I can hear you because I'm sitting right here, but the live is freaking everybody out.
So he can translate for me. So one of the questions I have is you're talking about things such as
sorry guys,
like research and development.
Once you unlock Spivey, you're not going to get him out of here.
Research and development, and you're talking about like monitoring these reefs.
Yeah,
they're established. Why do you continue?
She's saying if you change the reefs, it has to be monitored.
You know, if you throw things
because if they're going to permit that allowing, and I know you're like, it's already there. What does it matter? If the federal government or the state DMR allows that to happen, it has to be documented. They have to know where it went. And then what she's saying is what I'm picking up. Once that happens, you have to monitor it for X amount of time.
Yeah, and I'm not sure what it is in Mississippi. It's 10 years in Florida.
Okay.
Yes, it just sunk it.
Yeah.
That was FH what? Yeah.
Right. But that will have to be monitored now.
They didn't put the.
What was the name of that? What was the name of that boat? The Hermes.
Really?
That's right.
Yeah.
He's saying that the Hermes was just sunk not too long ago.
Why?
Those numbers are not out there yet. It has to be there for 2 years
because they're monitoring.
Yes.
Okay.
You know,
so if they put
this fishermen on there,
So if they put it in a spot and they don't want to kill the brute spot, they're
letting that artificial reef grow and get some sort of life on it. But if you like put the number out there and fishermen on it, you're never going to establish a habitat.
Okay.
Is that what Spivey's talking about right now? Fishing banks?
Everybody in the comments is like, why can't we hear him?
Yeah.
So can you want to just feed us the questions and we'll do it that way?
So the fishing banks, the Gulf fishing banks.
Yeah.
You need to join
Gulf fishing banks, $10 a month, $10 a year. Yeah.
We have a thing once a year where it's a big banquet where you come and eat, and it's all local caught fish.
Okay.
Okay.
All right.
So like we need
join the Gulf fishing banks is what Spivey's saying.
Yeah. And a lot of other stuff that we're not repeating.
Right.
Yeah. order to get everything established with our reefs, the Gulf Fishing Banks is huge in that coalition.
So we talked to Heath, and Heath is one of the divers around here, and what Bobby's saying is absolutely correct. The Gulf Fishing Banks is a great. I don't know if y'all work with them, if y'all know who they are.
They did. I did.
Yeah. So what they do is that they're kind of like the voice, but the Gulf Fishing Banks, and I don't mean this in a rude way, they're getting older. Most of the presidents and stuff like that. We need younger blood in the Gulf Fishing Banks. So if you're looking, there's no voice unless you have numbers. Like you could be the loudest guy in the room, but unless you got 10,000 people behind you, nobody's going to listen to you. So any chance you get to number up and man up or woman up or whatever you want to call it and have people behind you, that's what you should be doing.
Mentioned earlier.
And $10 a month, I mean, $10 a year, you can't do anything for $10 a year.
Wait, let's get into the Bonnie Carey thing. We got people asking about that as well.
Okay.
Before we wrap things up.
I will say I have to I don't want to throw my previous job under the bus. So I'm going to tiptoe,
tap dance.
Tap dance a little bit if I have to.
Yeah. So Bonnie Carey loads of fresh water into the Mississippi River, ends up going into the Gulf of Mexico. Gulf of Mexico
for an extended period of time.
For extended period of time, Gulf of Mexico gets flipped upside down, almost turns into brackish water. Algae blooms, fish kills, all kinds of stuff like that. Salinity plummets.
Which we have regularly in the summer because we have striation where like what do you call them? Jubilees.
Yes.
Red tide.
But red tide.
No. The Jubilees have nothing to do
Correct.
with
Where
tide.
it's a loss of oxygen where all the fish come in.
Yeah, and they die.
Right.
It's very sad.
Yeah.
Struggling.
But they're cool to see.
Yeah. It was a weird thing when I first moved here and people were like, the Jubilee's coming, and I'm like, are we all gonna go out in like skirts and dance? Like what? And they're like, no, the fish all come up and we pick them up. I'm like, oh.
Yeah. Well, I mean, there's always plumes of low oxygen in the Gulf of Mexico.
Yeah.
Right. They move around.
And there's that dead zone.
Right.
From the Mississippi River, there's a dead zone that like fluctuates each year.
Yeah, and that's I mean, you got to think everybody,
all the
farms that use fertilizer, all the boat traffic that goes up and down. You got oil, gas, you got everything that you can think of coming out of the Mississippi River.
Yep.
Once it hits the Gulf of Mexico, everything around it's going to die.
Yeah.
I mean, there's a big spot out there that everything's dead.
The dead zone. We know about it. You know, it's studied and monitored and all that stuff.
Right.
It's a lack of oxygenation.
Mm-hmm. Because there's so much nutrients when you put all that fertilizer, like pumping nutrients, and then the like algae take the nutrients and they bloom, and then they lose the nutrients, so they die and they suck all the oxygen out.
Yeah, but Bonnie Carey was a man-made event. Is the real issue with it, which is why one of the reasons why people have such a problem with it, because it could have been prevented in a lot of people's eyes, or why to prevent Louisiana's residential areas, because wasn't it residential or was it agriculture?
It's all flood.
It's to prevent New Orleans from flooding.
Correct. Why did that have to get dumped onto the Mississippi? Everything from tourism to fisheries to oyster farmers to even people that rent Airbnbs, right? Think about that. Like
there was also such a negative like media that and it's like, oh, it's dead. It's there's algal. As soon as you say harmful algal bloom, it kills tourism.
Right. Exactly.
Because everybody knows about red tide in Florida.
Right. Yes. Right. And that's what happened. Mm-hmm. And what a little bit I learned about it was that the Secretary of State in our state has jurisdiction over a lot of that stuff. I didn't realize that because it was oh man, I forget who it was at the time. It's Michael Watson now, but before it it'll hit me in a second when I'm not trying to think about it. Anyway, he was heavily involved with it.
Yes.
But there's lawsuits now. And
there will be for a long time.
He's lieutenant governor right now. It's going to piss me off.
I don't know, dude.
I'll look it up. But anyway, there's a lot of lawsuits over that right now, and it does say that the Louisiana version of whoever was in charge of letting that Corps,
it was the Army Corps of Engineers.
They didn't consult Mississippi like they should have, and I think some punitive damages are on the way.
Yeah, well, right? I think if I'm not mistaken, I think I heard that Mississippi is now going to be a part of the discussion. Going forward.
Yeah, and I think that's what it was, is because you got another, because it's just levees, it's just dams.
Delbert Hoseman.
Yeah,
thank you. God,
and
sorry,
one of them's in Baton Rouge, and one of them is in further north that they could stop off to. And so what they did is shut the gates and then let everything run down.
Right.
To complete, which, I mean, it sucks. It sucked for Mississippi. It sucked for our fishermen. It sucked for everything like that. But you're talking loss of lives if that if New Orleans floods.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
You're talking
no,
about loss of lives compared to fishing,
you-
which
you-
I think if it would have been like pulsed and put both ways, pulsed instead of
correct,
like
Yes.
correct,
waiting,
correct,
letting
correct.
it go. It was open for I think like 2 months. All I did when I moved here, so I moved here May. I started sampling May of 2019.
Mm-hmm.
All I did for the first 3 months was sample
yeah.
every morning.
Well,
Right.
Louisiana definitely said we don't care about Mississippi.
Correct.
We care about Louisiana.
We care about New Orleans.
Correct.
Right.
So
Why couldn't we just put it in trucks and ship it to all them drought areas in California?
we
I don't
got
think
there in plastic bags.
Yeah, 5-gallon buckets, man.
It comes-
We're gonna fix this problem.
It comes down to money again.
Exactly.
Exactly.
Exactly. Yeah. Well, that's
Yeah.
true too. He
But
said
then it
Creative
comes down to
jobs.
money again.
Yeah.
Creating jobs.
Exactly.
How do we stop that? I mean, what do we do? I mean, I know there's the levees that are up north.
Well, that's a little out of NOAA's jurisdiction, right?
Right.
I mean,
Out of mine, yeah.
Yeah, that's
so I don't,
that's
I
Corps
don't,
engineers.
I don't like
That's
work.
planning.
Yeah, it's a lot of,
Where the real fish don't live.
Right.
Yeah.
Exactly. So.
and I don't completely understand the like why they don't pulse it more, like if
So you're saying run it for a day, cut it off for a day,
yeah,
right?
or maybe like a little bit shorter terms, like a little bit of water, instead of
Yeah.
like all the water for an extended
I
period
would
of time.
assume they didn't have that much time, right? Volume. Yeah, they didn't have enough
Yeah.
time.
But I mean, the Mississippi River.
Which
the
also
Miss-
comes to that term, and I know I'm going to get a lot of hate for using it. There's a climate change.
Yes.
Yeah.
There was a lot of water. There was
Yeah.
a lot of snow. So what
Yeah.
it was, there was a ton
Melted,
of snow.
yeah.
Yeah.
It melted and it filled, that area.
Mississippi
And we had a
River.
bunch of rain, if I remember
Yeah.
right.
Yeah,
too.
that was a very wet
yeah.
year.
Yeah, it was raining like every
Yeah, that
single
was we went riding and it was like we sunk the 4-wheelers
Yeah.
because like Red Creek was completely
Yeah.
flooded.
How bad did you see it when you said you were testing every day, salinity wise?
I mean,
Oh, that was on the news. It got down to
Yeah.
like almost zero, if I remember.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was terrible.
out in the west it was like 1 zeros.
Yeah.
It
I mean,
destroyed the
oysters can't
yeah.
move. Where the fish just
They
went
move if
west,
they can.
Yeah,
Yeah,
east
they
west.
go out to golf. They
Right.
try and move as much as they can. I mean, obviously there was a lot of dolphin deaths.
Yeah, and
Yeah,
I'm sure
there's
that
a
in
lot
the
of them.
news.
I'm sure that interrupts they
Yeah.
have places they know where to feed, right?
Right.
Well,
That
the
messes them up
dolphins
there. No, I'm talking about like fish. not
Oh well, I know
dolphins.
the dolphins here are like a native population.
Yeah.
They're not like wandering around.
Yeah,
so
they don't go
live
anywhere.
here.
Yeah.
Right, right, right.
And then they were like, just
What do we
stuck-
do?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
What did y'all see any freshwater species move in
Oh, yeah.
when the saltwater moved out?
Oh yeah.
I'm sure.
I'm
Yeah.
sure it was bass on
So yeah.
Cat Island and saltwater catfish. Really?
Yeah,
Yeah.
he said catching bass and sort of. That's one thing I liked about the Pascagoula River during the wintertime. You can literally catch green trout and speckled trout in the same
Yes.
spot because
Yeah.
they're in there breeding and
Yeah, we
stuff.
started a program where we were starting to sample within the river systems, to look at species changing during the winter and summer, and
well bass, yeah.
Green
but they're a
trout,
trout.
man.
Green trout.
It's a
Yeah.
It's the
trout.
same thing as a green trout,
Yeah,
man.
but you were raised down here. That's a large amount.
Oh,
Well, I mean, I
here
was
we
just trying to
go.
be scientific with the NOAA.
oh no,
person.
green trout is like an endemic thing to here. That's
Yeah.
like blackfish. I've never heard that anywhere except here.
Lemon fish?
That's also a thing here.
Yeah.
Panama
Blackfish,
City-
triple tail.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was like you. It's one I hadn't heard a lot.
You
Yeah.
ain't never heard of blackfish before?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah,
blackfish.
What is there any topic that we didn't cover that from your side? I like the way you led off with like saying if you're doing your job right, you're making everybody mad.
Yeah.
And that's in jest, but it's right. I mean, you're tasked with a job that no matter how you do it, it's gonna
Somebody's
upset
gonna be mad.
some people. But I do believe that conversations like these,
Yes.
town hall meetings, you at the dock talking to that fisherman, explaining that hey, I'm not here to just take your days away or your fish away or
Yes.
ruin your recreational charter business.
Science.
We're trying to preserve a fishery here because we're facing a problem that humans haven't faced, I would say, ever. Really, that our technology is so good down here
Mhm.
now that we can
Well,
just
yeah, I mean-
completely destroy and have in
And
a lot
in
of
a
ways
very
already.
short amount of time.
Yeah.
We're not looking at like, they fished for whatever the same way for hundreds of years. We're in the last like 10 years and we're seeing a complete change
Absolutely.
in the technology.
Well, even the schooners, right? When they came out, early 1900s, they were just like hauling them in because of the ability that gave them.
Well,
Yeah,
I mean,
that's what I'm saying. Yeah.
think about this, and we thought about this the other day. Is in like I talked about earlier, 1980, 1990. Where are you going? 40 miles, maybe, on a full tank of gas,
Right. Exactly.
And then you got to have a daggone 55 gallon of oil to fix them two strokes.
Mhm.
Now you can reach
They're so energy
450
efficient and
Right.
they're
You're talking
fuel
about.
efficient.
You brought up the swordfish. Swordfish was pretty much unknown
Oh yeah,
to anybody.
except in Florida. 'Cause
Yeah.
They
off of
taste
Fort
good.
Lauderdale, you just go out
Right.
less than 10 miles at night, and you're in the Gulf Stream.
Yeah. And
Right.
now in Venice or in Mississippi, you can go on a
Right.
charter and
Right.
catch a swordfish, which
Oh,
is
yeah.
pretty much unheard of
Yes.
back in the day.
And they taste really good. Do you
Oh,
like
They're
I love-
delicious.
I
I
love
know.
swordfish.
I hadn't had them until recently.
Oh yeah.
They're legit.
You know what else
Yeah,
tastes like
he
a
was the
swordfish?
same. He
Yeah,
hadn't
I
had
hadn't
it.
had
Mako.
Yeah.
But you can't taste it. Don't
Right
take my
back to the
word for
Mako,
it. Yeah.
man. Right back to the Mako.
Yeah,
Well,
I
look.
think swordfish is absolutely delicious. You can't beat that.
Yes.
What's on the horizon?
Marlin? You like it? No, I don't like it.
Yeah.
Either.
What's on the horizon for you in your career?
So I've just been offered a new job.
Again?
Yeah.
Moving again.
Moving
Okay.
on up.
Yeah.
I don't know if it's up, but it's going back on the water. So like right now with management, a lot of management is in the
Paperwork.
office, paperwork.
Okay.
I was just offered a position to go back out, and we're actually going to start. There's talk about bringing cameras to Mississippi. Those
The pods.
the camera
Yeah,
ponds, and
okay.
looking at our reefs and
How
our
much are those camera pops?
40,000 a piece.
Oh.
Okay. And what
So now it's starting.
So
You know, like
is
when
that
I start
gonna-
telling
is
you
that
prices
gonna-
of
is
what
that expensive enough to monitor something for 10 years?
Spivey's
if we
back
don't
on
if
the
you don't
reef.
lose them or you don't
Right.
bust, you know.
Yeah.
But I
working,
mean-
working on water is expensive.
Oh, no
Right.
doubt.
The technology to get on the water and study it is expensive.
Yeah.
BOAC?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Bust out another 1,000.
That's
That's right.
right.
So you don't like the behind the scenes desk
No,
stuff.
I'm
You
a
wanna be on
water
the
You're
person.
more
I'm
of a spray in your hair,
I can
get out
respect
there.
that, yeah.
I used to go out on those longliners, 27 days, you know, setting whatever. I love it.
Well, so,
Okay.
so y'all are both salty because he's out most of the time and you're out.
Yeah, I keep it quiet, but I'm probably saltier.
Oh,
Really?
shots fired.
So, like-
shots fired.
So my 1 year offshore, I spent 124 days offshore,
Ooh,
Wow.
and I still paid rent,
It's a lot.
Yeah.
Yeah, really.
and I would do it again.
I love it.
I love it.
Well, once it
Uh,
gets in your veins, you can't get rid of it.
Yeah.
How do you feel
There's
about
a
that
famous
scale?
quote that's like the first sign of like sea fever is like waiting for the big blue. It
Yeah.
was Linda Greenlaw. She was on the sister vessel to Andrea Gale.
Okay.
Mm.
Okay. Jason Leetort in the comments, and he said, "Great job from a fellow NOAA employee." He said, "Great show." So
Oh,
we appreciate.
Jason.
We've been
Yep.
talking about doing one like this for a while, so we really appreciate you coming on and doing
Yeah,
this.
I had to get
because-
out of the bureaucracy.
Yeah, yeah.
So
And-
it's been almost 3 years in the making.
Absolutely.
Talking
'Cause,
to you
yeah, it's
guys.
been
Yeah.
a while.
But
yeah.
you know, with government comes a lot of like
You got to have the
there's
red tape. You
lawsuits
got to
and all,
have
you know.
the
Right.
handcuffs.
I just got into a position where I could come out and this is good. It gets people knowing that like we're not just there to shut everybody down.
Correct.
We're doing the work to like make the best decisions we can.
Yeah. And it's actually coming from somebody who knows it instead of somebody saying, well, I heard.
Correct.
Or,
Oh no,
Correct.
Yeah,
I was out there pulling nets, dropping cameras, pulling long lines in,
Right.
working up swordfish. You know, I worked up a ton of like the gag study I talked about. I
Yeah.
helped a lot with that. You know, I'm on the water trying to make things better.
I
Yeah.
love it. I like Joey said, it's nice to have somebody here that's been in the trenches, so to
Yeah.
speak.
Because
and-
like
and
we get
knows-
charter boat captains in and then we're like, why is this?
Well, it's
I don't
one-sided.
know.
It's
You know what I'm
one-sided.
saying?
Yeah.
We don't want to be one-sided. And but how do we penetrate DMR for people that are still at DMR? Just go through the appropriate channels.
Yes,
We talked to
yes.
some of them at the boat show, and that's what they said. Make sure like file a formal request.
Correct. There's that ladder you got to go to. You
Okay.
know,
Yeah.
calling. You know, just getting that conversation started.
Okay.
Right.
If you really want to make a force and a change, you need to like come together, have a singular word or mission.
And I think that's what the
And you
fishing
have to be
banks is trying to
realistic.
do.
Correct.
Yeah. So if you haven't found them yet, go if you're on Facebook right now, look up Gulf Coast Fishing Banks. They have a Facebook page.
It's a group.
It's a group.
Yep,
Yeah.
join the
And
group.
it's $10 a year, and they're looking for new blood. And I've joined, or at least I hope so. Heath was supposed to join me the other night.
Yeah.
But I mean, this is your family. This is your
Heritage,
livelihood.
yeah,
I mean,
yeah.
this is what it's going to be. So if you want a voice in it, like I said, the loudest person in the room means nothing if you
And
don't
that's
have
everything. I
10,000
really
people
think
behind them.
if you want our fish, you know, our like commercial fishing, our recreational, is to get the youth involved.
Yes.
Yeah.
Because there's not young kids going into commercial. Where are we going to get the U.S. caught shrimp, the Gulf caught shrimp?
Yeah.
You know, who's going to go out there and long line for U.S. caught swordfish?
Right.
Right.
You know, get the youth involved.
It's
Yeah.
kind of like the profession I'm in. I teach carpentry, and like carpenter's a dying trade. Fishing is
it
a
is.
dying
But
trade.
I'll tell you
know
one
what I'm
thing.
saying?
I'll tell you one thing about the beauty of this country is the free market will solve that, because if there's a demand for it, and
Somebody's
going to
go back in it. Yeah.
the pay for it will go through the roof, and,
Yeah.
and people will start doing it again.
Yeah.
And that's just how it is. So, thank you so much for your time.
Thank you for
Thanks
having
for
me.
coming in.
Great.
Spivey,
It was
we're
awesome.
gonna get you a mic the next time
Yeah.
that works. We're
Yeah.
gonna turn.
He's just got it on his head right now.
Just shake your head. Yes. That's it. Okay. All right.
Yeah.
At least he can hear.
And
That's
if it
right.
ever comes up again and you have more questions, I love doing this kind of stuff. I
Yeah,
love doing
absolutely.
it. I'm that scientist that likes to talk.
Well, good. And anything you got coming down the pipe for you, whether it's the new job or whatever, anything cool you find, photos, tag us, send it to us.
Let us
We'd
know.
love to have it.
One of the things I wanted to bring from the recreational side was don't forget when it came to the tails and scales. That's the reason our scales went past what we've normally been allowed to fish.
Okay, Spivey's saying that don't forget, tails and scales is
Do
actually
your reporting.
And actually do it accurate.
the reporting allowed for a bigger catch.
Yes.
And not only that, we got to fish longer.
Yes.
And we got to fish longer.
If
Yeah.
you give the
So-
scientists,
Season ran through what, November?
Yeah, it did. It was
They
a little
just
bit
shut it
longer.
down, yeah.
Yeah.
But go ahead. I
but
know-
if you give the scientists and managers the best information that you have, we can make the best information and decisions to put back on you.
Right.
Yep.
You know, but if
So-
you lie
Correct.
or not reporting,
Underreport, yeah.
it's going to affect us, and there's
Correct.
nothing that we as managers can do.
Correct.
You know, we're relying on the fishermen, the community to help us.
It's not only that. Something that I read on the internet was talking about tails and scales versus the way that the feds had been reporting.
Just counting,
and
yeah.
counting
Yeah,
it's more accurate.
those
Yeah.
It's more
for
accurate.
decades.
The
Were you
tails and
were you
scales-
listening when you were sitting over there?
I mean, we just went over this.
we said
I'll
we
tell you-
exactly said that.
He's on the phone.
He was on the phone. We said exactly that.
Spivey
Yeah.
comes in and listens
Yeah,
to 20 minutes.
God,
He wants to
no,
go on
Spivey.
camera.
DMR did a really great job with tails and scales. They
Yeah.
actually have gotten awards for it.
Really?
That it's one of the best in the Gulf, if
Okay.
not the best.
It's inside the brown water.
Hey, you can find it on the brown water app. That's
right.
where it's at.
That's where we're going to end it. Thanks everybody
Yeah.
that watched on the live, the replay, and then on
was
the
a great
podcast.
show.
That was a
Great
great show.
show.
We appreciate every single one of your comments. That means a lot to us. It lets you know you're engaged in what we're talking about.
Yep.
And again, Tiffany, thank you so much.
Yeah,
Thank you.
thank you guys, and thanks, all the questions and stuff. I
Yeah,
really
doors
appreciate
always
it.
open.
Exactly.
Yep, doors
All right.
always open.
We'll see y'all in the next